Welcome to the Football Fun Factory podcast, and today we will be discussing, is there any point in unopposed practice within our sessions? Chaddy, initial thoughts?
I'm a great believer in all sessions should be opposed.
Oh, let's hope you get that card when you're defending it in the court. James, what are your initial thoughts, mate?
I think that there are opportunities for unopposed practice.
Oh, I might have a little look at the cards and try and stitch some people up here. So, what we're going to do is we're going to put it on trial. Order in my courtroom, please. Welcome back to the courtroom, my courtroom, Judge Jonny's courtroom. We've got two opposing statements that I'm going to give the guys. They've not seen what they are, and they have to fight that corner no matter what they say. Good luck, guys. Chaddy, can you please begin by reading your opening statement?
There is absolutely no point in unopposed practice. It's fake. It's just utterly ridiculous. How can you improve by playing against no one? Pointless.
Oh!
Love it.
James?
Unopposed practice is brilliant for mastering techniques. It helps accelerate children's development and is a crucial part of a successful session.
So, you've actually got the statements that you probably agree with, guys. So I'm really looking forward to this debate. James, can you please begin by reminding us of a few parts of your opening statement and then going into a bit more...
Said it.
Okay. You know what? No! Guilty as charged. Chaddy, can you please remind us of your opening statement?
Just read it. Okay, yeah, of course, Judge. There's absolutely no point in unopposed practice. It's fake. It's just utterly ridiculous. How can you improve by playing against no one? Pointless.
James, can you please put him on the stand?
Luke, have you ever done any unopposed practice, or has it always been alongside others?
Done loads and loads of unopposed practice and just hated it. Weren't engaged, didn't see the point in it. So unrealistic. Just not for me, personally.
Cool. So if we go through all of your clubs, could be a long pod, but if we go through all of them, could you let me know yes or no whether you did unopposed practice at each club? Manchester United.
Yes.
Stoke City.
Yes.
Norwich City.
Yes.
Reading.
Yes.
West Ham.
Yes.
MK Dons.
Yes.
We don't have all day.
Southampton Rangers.
We don't have all day.
If all of those coaches, managers, players all brought into unopposed practice, is it that all of those people are wrong and you are right? Or the other way around?
Obviously. I mean, I can't remember. I made one mistake, and that was probably about 3 years ago, where I thought I'd got something wrong, but I hadn't, it turned out. But in my opinion, as a player playing, I couldn't stand unopposed sessions. I just thought they were unrealistic. They weren't helping me develop in any way, shape or form. Obviously, other people have got different ideas, and I completely respect that.
So, Alex Ferguson, wrong. To Alan Pardew, wrong. To have unopposed practice within their sessions. So
they obviously done it for a reason, but in terms of me as a player, I didn't enjoy that whatsoever. For other players, it might have been completely different, and they might have got
So
something
I put it to you, Luke Chadwick, that you're just going with your personal opinion rather than the facts backing it up that actually that's what's true.
But I thought that was what the court was. We were going with our own feelings. I've been given a statement to read, I've read it, and I'm fighting that corner out of my personal feelings towards it.
It's just that you're wrong and everyone else is right.
Yeah, which is usually the case, yeah.
I've heard enough. James, can you now please remind everyone of your statement? And
sure.
Luke,
It's been a while since I delivered it, so that makes perfect sense.
Thanks, guys. Luke, and then can you please question him?
Cool. Unopposed practice is brilliant for mastering techniques. It helps accelerate children's development and is a crucial part of a successful session. So for me, unopposed practice is all about building into opposed practice. So you get loads more opportunities with unopposed practice. That's the big thing for me. So if you're kicking a ball against a wall and you do that repeatedly, you get loads of touches, loads of practice, and it's brilliant for mastering techniques because you get more touches on the ball. Within opposed practice, if you've then got defenders or you're playing in a keep ball session, for example, the number of side foot passes with your weaker foot will be so far less than if you were then practicing ball against the wall on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. So I just think there's an opportunity to do unopposed practice. I think it should definitely build into opposed practice 100%, because it's, like you say, it's not real, and the real game is then opposed. But I think there's just an opportunity to get loads of touches on the ball, loads of practice, and therefore become a better player. It is a crucial part of a successful session.
Yeah, I thought you've argued your case really well there. But I think my question would be is, like, training sessions usually an hour, 90 minutes maximum, and for me you should get as much opposed work into that session. I completely agree, kicking a ball against the wall, that sort of thing builds technique, the repetition of doing that. But in my mind that should be something that should be done away from the actual group session, because I think in the group session it has to be opposed for the people that are in that session to improve in a realistic training session.
Yeah, so I think when we coach or teach our head coaches here at Football Fun Factory to develop their sessions, we do that in a way where we talk about layering the sessions. Jonny does that a lot. And to layer the session would be to have a starting point, progress it, and make it progressively harder. I think one big thing that's important is confidence. So if you were to start unopposed and to have real success with something, and for that to then become opposed, I think that's a really, really good way to develop and layer a session. If you go straight into opposed, some of the weaker players or some of the players that are on that development journey may not have the opportunity to practice this technique at all if they've never got the ball or they always get tackled. So to have some success in an unopposed situation, I think is another great benefit.
Well, I think there is only one clear winner today in my courtroom.
Thank you very much.
Luke Chadwick, you didn't fight your corner particularly well. The jury is out, and James Cutting, I thought you defended your statement valiantly.
Thank you.
You said the jury's out, so surely they've not made a decision yet.
The jury's back in the room, and they've decided.
They were out. It is in the were out.
James is the winner.
Yeah.
And today's prize is something to really celebrate. We recently celebrated a big announcement at the Football Fun Factory that we hit 1,000?
1,000 franchisees.
1,000 franchisees.
When's this one go down?
100 franchisees at the FFF, which was a huge moment for us because it means we're coaching thousands of children up and down the UK, and we celebrated with a confetti cannon. And there's a confetti cannon left over. So James, you won.
Quick question. Is that a tee up?
Do it.
Is it a tee up?
No, you've got to do it.
I'm going to do it away from the microphone.
Hold on. Let me get it on the vlog.
It has to go away from the microphone because I don't want just anyone listening to the podcast kind of driving the car. I don't want there to be a big bang.
Ollie can do it in the edit.
It's a bit dangerous. Ollie can do it in the edit. 3, 2, 1. Hey! 100 franchises, and what a way to celebrate winning this week's debate.
God, it was loud. Cool. Let's see what we really think.
I'm just going to clean that up.
Well, anyway, great debate, guys. Chaddy, you said at the start that you're not a fan of opposed practices.
No, my own personal opinion, like when I go and train, go and play, I like to have opposition to make it realistic. I completely understand that unopposed practices are important for building technique, to sort of get that repetition, whatever you're doing. I see it like, for example, a crossing and finishing drill that's unopposed. That's a lot of fun, can be really enjoyable. What I don't like is passing routines, passing drills. That's what I find really boring as a player. But again, some people really enjoy them, some people need them. But for me, it was all about sort of playing in opposed sessions.
Do you think there's any techniques that are good for so like I'm just thinking of like free kick takers, for example. You talked about like Beckham used to go out on the training pitch and practice with, you know, and no doubt he'd have mannequins. I don't know if they're like any of the goalies then went out with him and tried to save the free kicks he was practicing, or he was just out there by himself.
Yeah, all the time, and like all the top players do that. I think even speaking about myself, certainly not a top world-class player, but I spent hours and hours playing unopposed by myself in my back garden, sort of home.
You just enjoy it more when there's
enjoy it a lot more. But I think when you talk about unopposed, I immediately think about sort of them passing drills, or when you're dribbling up to a mannequin, turning out, passing back. But like when you think about unopposed shooting, crossing and finishing, they are a lot of fun. People enjoy them, and I personally enjoyed them. It's more the boring stuff where it's obviously better and more exciting when you've got...
Do you think there's a need for the boring stuff though? So obviously you want to try and make all the sessions as fun as possible, especially when you're coaching kids. But as you get older and you talk about that you did these passing drills, do you think there's a need for that? Or do you think you could like do away with unopposed passing practices and go straight into opposed work?
I think as a adult player, if it was a passing drill to lead into the session just to kill a bit of time, then no, I understand it when you're working on sort of pattern shapes to play out from the back. Sometimes you do that unopposed to get them and then add some opposed players. But it, without a doubt, for children, that it's incredibly important to have unopposed, like you said in the debate, James, because not all of them will have that much on the ball during a session if they're one of the weaker players. So to be able to do that and sort of improve their technique is incredibly important. What I was arguing a case about was my own personal opinion of me being a young player and then sort of going into playing football full time.
Do you not think it's really important as an adult to have that unopposed? Like obviously, I guess I'm just thinking about like when you are working on shape and when you are working on passing patterns, like have to start with that to then obviously go into the opposed stuff. I think like it's probably, I guess, as important or even more important arguably that at the older age groups you're practicing those unopposed things, whereas when you're younger I think like 1v1s, 2v2s, tag games, stuff like that where there is opposition, it's probably more fun and engaging for those younger age groups.
Yeah, good point.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Judge.
And the winner of this debate is Jonny.
I just think for me, because you referenced it about it being boring, unopposed practice can be boring. I've been in them myself. It is boring. So for these younger age groups and for the children, it should surely be opposed.
Isn't that though the football fun factory in terms of then that's what we do? We take every aspect of football that may not be enjoyable and we put a positive spin on it and make it enjoyable. So isn't it the skill of the coach then to make unopposed practice fun? Because I think it can be.
Yep.
No, and I think like with the way that the Football Fun Factory sessions are structured, where it's a game, then into a session, that session is usually an unopposed session, but every child's got their own football, so there's no queuing up waiting to do something, which I think does obviously improve technique, and you do the way that it's done with storytelling, it makes it really enjoyable. I think as you get older and you maybe do the same thing and you're 21 years old and you're doing a remote control and you pause, you may find that a little bit...
What are we classing as unopposed though? Because for example, if you had a group of children inside an area and they're all practicing effectively unopposed in terms of there's no defenders trying to tackle them, but there's then kind of like passive, like there's everyone else is doing the same and you may then be an obstacle.
It's sort of semi-opposed, isn't it? I guess that's probably how you describe it, in the sense of they're having to avoid other people, they're having to get their eyes up. I think the way within our sessions, what we do obviously through storytelling, through trying to make it fun and engaging, is we gamify everything. So fun little challenges where they're sort of friendly competition against other children within the group, and that then gives them the motivation and the drive to try and complete the task and the unopposed task.
I think that keeps the engagement, doesn't it? And even a lot of the time the children compete against themselves to try and get a higher score than they did last time, and that really engages them. I think I'd class unopposed as when there's no opposition, there's no you're not playing against another person. So obviously a lot of our sessions, there's cones there's things to dribble around and that sort of thing, but I'd still say that is unopposed, but in a lot more enjoyable, entertaining way than maybe when you're in a passing drill, sort of waiting for your turn, sort of, and not, in my case, probably not fully engaged until it got to the point where it progressed into an opposed session.
I think for coaches, when you're then, for any coaches listening, when you're then doing unopposed sessions, is then trying to add some element of friendly competition, either with the child competing against himself or the adult competing against themselves or another group. So if you had two sort of passing patterns or whatever happening at the same time and there was a race to get it to where it needed to get to, just because otherwise, like, it probably lacks a lot of realism. Like when I then think of sessions that I've been involved in as a player and it's unopposed, you can be a bit sloppy at times. You get shouted at by the coach or whatever, or moaned at as an adult playing football. But like ultimately, it does really lack that realism and what it should look like on the weekend.
I think as a coach, it's harder to put on an unopposed session, like in terms of setting it all up, getting the energy and the tempo, because it hasn't got that same thing, whether it's a possession drill, whatever it is, when you are playing against competition. And I think it is more of a challenge. Like you say, the coach, it takes them longer to set up an unopposed session and people aren't sort of fully in the session or sort of committed to it, and then you get the frustration. So I think particularly with young children, I think it's easier because you can use a storytelling, you can put a different spin on it. But I think it is harder for a coach to plan and deliver an unopposed session.
James, what do you think?
I think I'm going to take it a little bit philosophical.
Oh, here we go.
So I think in life, you have to do the things that you don't want to do to get to where you want to be. And I think that that's true for everything that you do. So if you want to be really, really good at something or achieve something that's on another level, we've just celebrated 100 franchisees, as per the confetti all over the table and the floor that will need to be picked up ahead of the next podcast that we film. But it's just a fact of life. If you want to progress in your career, if you want to do really well, if you want to excel at school, whatever you might do, you need to put in the hard yards. And I think that the players that stay on the training pitch and practice alongside all the opposed stuff that they do, then when it comes to the opposed stuff, they're the best players because they're the ones that are really striving to be at their brilliant best. And I just think whatever you do in life, if you only choose to do the things that you want to do, you probably won't be as successful as you can be. Little bit deep for the podcast, maybe.
Let's probably end it there before everyone starts. Go on, Chad.
Chad's got a puzzled face.
Yeah, no, the interesting point. I would say, but the players that do that, every single one of them want to do it because they absolutely love it. They're there. They're not staying out there thinking, "Oh, I've got to stay out and do extra." They're staying out because
probably not all the time. I'll challenge that because I think there will be days where they get to the end of the session, they've not had the best day. They really enjoy. So take it back to the best example is David Beckham, isn't it? Just because he's an unbelievable free kick taker. He goes out and your point is then he goes out because he enjoys practicing. He enjoys the bend on his free kick and observing it, and he just loves that. I guarantee there'll be days where he just didn't want to do it. I guarantee there'll be days where it's hammering down with rain, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm still out there. I'll still practice."
I'd challenge that with that individual case with David Beckham. Like every day he stayed out there. I don't think there was ever a time where he thought, "I've got to stay out," because I think he just wouldn't do it. I think he stayed out there because he absolutely loved kicking the ball.
Do you not think every human being would have a day?
Let's call him.
I think there was a day.
Have you got his number?
I've left my phone.
You think every international call as well?
I generally think that if he didn't want to do it, he wouldn't do it. Like every day he'd come in and he'd be the hardest working player in the training session.
Do you not think that everyone has a day where they don't fancy it in whatever they do, even if it's something you really enjoy? Everyone has a day where you just think, "I can't be bothered today."
Without a doubt. But I think in that case, in that sort of industry and what he was like, he loved it. Like he absolutely loved it. And every day he'd do that because that's what he wanted to do. I don't think there was ever a day that he didn't want to hone his skills and get better and become the player that he ended up being.
I'm just thinking of other analogies, and maybe he's just a rare breed, but almost like it's like the gym and working out and fitness. And some people really enjoy that, and running and whatever it might be, or lifting weights. But there's always a day where you just don't fancy it, and those are the days, in my mind, that are the most important. I think the same is true of this, that you have to put in the graft and you have to do it when you don't want to do it. And in my mind, everyone that's really successful, that's what they do. They put in the hard yards when they don't want to.
I was thinking about a slightly different example. I was thinking about being a good husband and you have to go shopping. You really don't want to. You sit outside the shop, you see loads of blokes, don't you? You just slat around while the missus is in the shop. Just my mind sort of drifted there. Sorry, guys. Anyway, let's probably end it on that. It's not quite as philosophical as earlier on.
Let's have it as next week's topic.
Yes, good idea. Right, that one down, Ollie.
Husbands go shopping. Johnny, what do you think?
Well, maybe we could ask that in Chaddy's quick fire questions, which is everyone's favourite part of the podcast. Let's head there now.
So I'm not going to ask about shopping. I just think that'd be a bit silly. So my question is, you talked about what you enjoyed, Chad, in terms of didn't enjoy unopposed practice, enjoyed more kind of real stuff within your training sessions. In terms of training, when you look back at your career, what were the most enjoyable sessions that you participated in and why?
I think it was always the small-sided games. I think, obviously, growing up at Manchester United, when I got into in and around the first team squad, all we'd do every day was sort of little rondos to begin with, then into possession, then into games, and it was like so enjoyable. Obviously, the game has changed a huge amount since then, like in terms of tactics, what it looks like and everything like that, and there's more structure to it. But that's really what I'd be in training waiting, because at every club you'd usually end with a small-sided games. I just absolutely loved them. That was my most enjoyable part of training.
Great.
Nice. Chaddy, my quickfire question is, throughout your playing career, who was the hardest trainer?
Hardest worker would have been David Beckham. Obviously spoke about him a lot throughout the podcast. I think at Manchester United, it was so intense every day in training. Everyone would work their socks off. Training was probably as intense as a game at the weekend. And I think that's obviously why the club saw so much success, because there was always that edge and there was always everyone wanting to get in a team. I think after sort of leaving Manchester United, I think I would consider myself one of the hardest trainers. I think that was the sort of the mentality I had, not a world-class player per se, but a really hard worker, and used to train as hard as I could every day. And there was a number of brilliant players that I played with, but I'm going to big myself. I don't do it very often. I'm going to big myself up a little bit here. I'd say I was the hardest working trainer in the other clubs that I played for.
Judge. You still the judge?
Yeah, I'm always the judge.
Permission to ask a follow-up question. I'm just intrigued.
Granted.
Thank you, Judge. Just really interested in that, whether you feel that the culture created at Man United had that, well, two things really, if I'm allowed, is were people who weren't hardworking at Man United kind of rejected in terms of that's just not good enough, if you're not going to work hard, this isn't the club for you. And as a follow-up to that, then do you feel that created a culture? You almost talked about you were there for a spell and then you took that with you throughout your career. Do you think that was true for most players at Manchester United at that time?
100%. I think for the players that came through the system and you were involved in that culture of excellence, but it was more about the person that you were, how hard you worked. I think it wouldn't be allowed. I can't think of one player at Manchester United, I was only there a short time within the first team, that didn't work hard. It was just a given. It came from the manager, it came from the captain, Roy Keane, and everyone was on it every day. So I think like the lessons that I personally learned from Manchester United in my time there as a schoolboy, as a YTS player, as a first team player, were the life lessons of being humble, of working hard every day, for showing up. And that's probably what I'm most grateful for my time at the club, was the lessons that it taught me to take through life. And that's something that I certainly took with me throughout my football career.
Nice.
Very nice. Thanks very much for sharing, Chad. Thoroughly enjoyable podcast, guys. I look forward to seeing you again next week.